The International Atomic Energy Agency's report on Iran is out this morning. Is it likely to stop pressure from the United States and its allies to push for further sanctions? Well, to discuss this, we're joined from Ottawa by John Clearwater. He's a nuclear weapons specialist, and he's also an author of the book Just Dummies: Cruise Missile Testing in Canada. John, thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning. No problem.
John, before we get into today's results, which I think are important, we should probably do some background on these IAEA inspections of Iran. They go back 5 years, don't they?
They go back much longer than that. Iran has been a long-term signatory of the Non-Proliferation Treaty of 1968 and has always been subject to inspection. But over the past few years, we've seen enhanced inspection. Iran has become a member of additional protocols. Iran's facilities are now subject to random, unannounced inspection by IAEA staff. That means at any moment they can show up, they are granted access, they are allowed to take samples, copy records. This has been done frequently over the past year. So now the IAEA goes in so frequently, unannounced, that they have been able to say that they can and are able to ongoing verify all declared nuclear material in Iran and can prove that it is not being diverted for any non-civilian purpose.
Has Iran been cooperative through all this, or is it tough for the IAEA to get things done?
El Baradi said this morning to the Board of Governors in Vienna that Iran is engaged in enhanced cooperation over the past 2 months. Cooperation had slowed down over the summer, but is increasing now. The IAEA is getting more cooperation and got almost everything it requested during its last report, which was on 30 August. At that time, they asked for some notes from the mid-1980s, including a handwritten report, and they wanted to examine some particles that had been found as part of garbage. All that has been resolved, apparently, to the satisfaction of the IAEA inspectors and El Baradei.
And then what about this morning's report? Anything startling as far as revelations?
Well, this morning's report was concentrated on the centrifuges. These are devices that spin uranium hexafluoride in order to enrich it, to raise the amount or the percentage of weapons-grade uranium in the mix. Right now, we know that Iran operates several hundred of these and has been able to enrich uranium from basic to a high of 3.7%, highly enriched uranium. The IAEA and weapons specialists around the world consider 20% to be the dividing line between regular uranium and weapons grade. 20% is the cutoff, and the IAEA has proven that Iran has only reached 3.7. So they are nowhere near acquiring weapons grade uranium, and they won't be for a very long time given the program they have, which is under constant scrutiny. Everything they put in and everything they take out is safeguarded and sealed.
So it's not militarized. It's not as though there's a case that can be made for, like in Iraq, weapons of mass destruction or anything along those lines. Am I clear on that?
Right. What we're seeing is that the entire declared civilian program is fully safeguarded. It's being watched, controlled, surveilled, and assayed by independent inspectors. What you're maybe hearing from the United States later is that this is all proof that there is a completely secret hidden program of such a stunning quality that they are able to hide it from even the best inspectors, and they're able to do what no country has ever done in history, hide a complete program. That's very far-fetched. It's never been done by even the most technologically advanced states, so it's not a credible assertion. What we have now is Iran so tightly under the microscope that everything they've done has been subject to scrutiny. In fact, the most important thing that was done was the plutonium experiments, and there was worry that Iran had plutonium. The IAEA went in, discovered some plutonium as part of garbage, literally left over in storage waste casks. When they experimented and they went through Iranian records, they discovered where it had come from, and they concluded in their report of August that that case was now closed. They were satisfied that the plutonium was not part of a weapons program and that the project was over.
Okay, but the Americans have put and pushed for sanctions, and are we likely to see more sanctions? Will they have their way?
We're likely to see an increased push from the United States, possibly with Angela Merkel from Germany, but the IAEA report is not going to support more sanctions. The report says quite clearly this morning, Al-Baradei told the Board of Governors the cooperation is increasing, it's very good, and all of the questions that they put to them in August are being answered. They are getting the questions. They are confident that they can now monitor all material and that there is being no diversion from any declared stock. And they can't find undeclared stock.
Yeah, incredible. Although you never know, what the Americans are seeing overall. Conversely, has Iran received the supportive action from its big trade partners? And I'm thinking the political powers like Russia and China.
Yes, there's enhanced trade going on. We had the Caspian Summit about a month and a half ago because Russia and Iran have over $2 billion in trade. A large chunk of that, in fact, the single largest, is in the aerospace industry. Aircraft, both civil and military, and space launching vehicles. So it's a great deal with that. As well, they're dealing largely with other Caspian Sea partners and with the Chinese. There's also a great interest in Europe. Europe is their single largest investor. And so the Europeans are interested in peaceful measures. Even though the Germans are talking with the U.S. about sanctions, only political sanctions, the Germans are the single largest country investor in Iran, and so are completely uninterested in any military action.
Well, it's interesting now. So you've got on one side the Americans with a military action potentially looming, the Europeans sitting on the fence, at least not a military action, maybe Russia and China in favor of doing nothing at all. How do you think it's going to work itself out, John?
This is a very long-term problem. Right now, the diplomats have it well in hand. It's working. Iran is giving cooperation to the IAEA, and it's very tough to argue to go to war when the person you're looking to go to war with is fully cooperating with the inspectors. They haven't kicked out the inspectors. They give them visas. They're allowed to roam the country. They do spot inspections. The U.S. will continue to press for a strike and may support one by Israel, and then simply come to Israel's aid afterwards. This is the worst of all possible worlds because it will make what's going on in Iraq look like Sunday school.
Yeah, I guess then the question is Iran under unusual scrutiny? Could any of the other members, if they were put to the same kind of scrutiny, come up as clean?
Well, nobody's really clean. The big members are not subject to this kind of scrutiny because they are, by definition, nuclear weapons states. And if you were a nuclear weapons state at the time of the signing of the NPT, then you are not subject to this kind of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Only non-nuclear states are, but they are guaranteed by international law the right to a peaceful nuclear program. That's what Iran has always claimed it had. And that is what the IAEA has shown that they currently have, is a peaceful nuclear program, which is allowed by law. So one understands when Iran chafes under these restrictions and says, we're allowed to have this program. Everybody's allowed to have this program.
Is Korea currently a focus?
Korea is a focus, and they were also discussed today briefly. What's happening in North Korea is that we're now in the last roughly 6 weeks of their denuclearization program. The inspectors working IAEA and US are in there watching now what's supposed to be the final shutdown of the reactors and the reprocessing facilities.
Yeah.
That's being kept extremely quiet, extremely secret, probably out of deference to North Korea's sensitivities, as long as the job gets done.
John, we've run out of time. Fascinating discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. John Clearwater, nuclear weapons specialist, author of Just Dummies, Cruise Missile Testing in